So, what's happening now is we're going to dive into a poem submitted by Urey TFT, and it is called A Dancing Skeleton Solitude, which is a fun name. It sounds very like Halloween or very like Edgar Allan Poe. So, that's kind of, I'm kind of excited. I feel like spooky poetry is cool, and um, those sort of feelings of unease. I don't know if this is going to be spooky, but dancing skeletons, seems like it. Um, I feel like it's a difficult thing to do, and not one that I've heavily experimented with. Y'all have lots of chats in here about Shakespeare and stuff that I'm just not gonna read. I will say I like Shakespeare, um, and but haven't read that much of him, so I don't have strong opinions. um, it's a poem about old people. Okay, that is some fun context that we will add over here. Um, and I guess in addition to that, it's totally your choice, Ure. If you'd like to provide any other context for the poem, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask, um, if you, there are certain themes or parts that you want to call attention to, that can be useful for me to do the analysis and have some sort of guide. Sometimes it's as much as like, I don't like the fifth line of the poem, and then we can like use that as a jumping off point for discussion. If you don't have anything like that, that's totally okay. And we'll just dive into it with the context of this is a poem about old people. Your handwriting is so pretty, thank you. I actually usually write in cursive and have pretty handwriting like that. So, but I think that's a little bit difficult for stream sometimes for comprehensibility. So we've moved on to my print, which I try to keep controlled. I originally started writing cursive because my print was really messy, and I think doing so and paying attention to my writing has helped my print be a little prettier. It's a very difficult poem, is all I'll say. I did skim it and noticed there was a lot of things going on. I wrote it roughly 6 years ago. Wow. So you've been writing for like a lot of your life, because you said you're 22, and you said you're 22, which means if we subtract 6 from that, you you wrote this when you were 16? That's crazy. I've only been writing for 2 years, or 2.5 years. Stage fell, so the calligraphy didn't help. I guess that helped too. The calligraphy was the thing that got me to write cursive, I think. So, you were turning 17. Were you feeling old? Yeah, I can't read in cursive at all. Online schooled all my life. Right, yeah. No way. My birthday's March 24th, Ure. So we're like almost exactly a year apart. Anyway, let's jump into the poem. Let's talk about it. Let's see what's up. A dancing skeleton's solitude. Decomposed smiles and cries of time, decay and fugue in a wallow of misery. Amour propre, engulfed in impotence and solitude. Exhort for God to take me in as well. Worthless I beseech, impart purpose. Golloped? That's a new word for me. Golloped inside, I cannot endure nihilism. Mislaid again, death swallow me whole, brain aches as worthlessness convenes. My name is you, I swear. again perceived as a walking corpse. Pageant of time dictates what you can see. Pride go away, now or never, I say. To the grave once again, you left me hollow flow of time. Dance with my bones in the clear solitude I longed for, kissed me a good night. Hmm. Okay. As you said, it is a hard poem, and I think I agree with that. There is like a lot going on here. We're using like a pretty heavy vocabulary, I would say, and we're going in a lot of directions talking about big conceptual things, right? We've got our like solitudes and times, and we've got exhorting God. We've got um, nihilism and worthlessness. We're beseeching. This is very, very dramatic, right? Very, very there, I guess. Pride, another big conceptual thing. Um, to the grave once again you left me hollow flow of time, come back to time, solitude. So yeah, very existential, uh as you say, and I think it's hard for any poem to not be existential when it mentions nihilism, when it's talking about death, solitude, time. There are a few things I would say that we should define, look up. I don't know if I can just crowdsource this, if people can from chat can tell me what amour propre is, what galloped is, because I almost read this as galloped, but it's not galloped, it's galloped, and that's a word I've just I think never seen before. Um, and other than that, I think everything's good for me. If anyone has other words in here they're unfamiliar with, do say, because if we want to understand something, if we want to talk about something, if we want to analyze, if we want to engage with a work, we shouldn't be sort of embarrassed. I think sometimes people are to like look up a word or to admit we don't know a word. Because, like, if we don't look it up, if we don't clarify our definitions, then, we're just selling ourselves short. We're giving ourselves less of a chance to understand. Uh, I guess I'll even say exhort too, because I'm familiar with this word. I've even used this word, and I'm not exactly precise on like the definition of it, and that's okay. So to exhort is to strongly encourage, to urge, to all of that. So exhort is to encourage. To gollop is to eat or drink. Eat or drink greedily. So if I am golloped, I have been eaten or drank from, or am I like hungry to eat? Probably eaten, like I am emptied out and consumed. Amour propre, French. Self love is a French term that can be variously translated self love, self esteem, or vanity. In philosophy, it is a term used by Jean Jacques Rousseau. Okay, so we're back to like existential thought. Rousseau was pre existential, right? Rousseau was earlier than that, I think. Is this a specific reference to that, Yuray? I do wonder. I was very ambitious young, right? Uh, I feel like I have a poem a bit like this from like early in my writing that I was like, I'm gonna engage with lots of philosophic things and these big words, and it had like a kind of science like physics thing going on in it, making like reference to mathematics and stuff like that. Um, but this is cool. So we've got self love. We also have the idea of vanity. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who contrasts it with another kind of self-love, which he calls amour de soi. Okay. This doesn't reference anything. Okay, cool. I've really fallen out of love with poetry about big concepts. I think that's fair. Um, there's a lot of different ways we can write poetry. Tiny things of beauty, big concepts, tiny things of beauty that hold big concepts. uh, you know, interactions of regular life and the mundane. We have poetry that like romanticizes and is about other people. I think it's totally fine. Like it's probably better to have things we dislike and things we like, um, because having opinions is really important. If you're an artist and you don't have art you dislike, I think that's a problem. Like art within your medium. Well, solely big concepts. Fair enough. I need that connection to the specific, to the personal. Makes sense. I think that's a beautiful thing that poetry does, is connect to that like human element. So I'm going to read this again, and I'll maybe start underlining things and trying to construct a way we can approach this poem and understand it better. Decomposed smiles and cries of time, decay and fugue in a wallow of misery. Amour propre, engulfed in impotence and solitude, exhort for God to take me in as well. Worthless, I beseech, impart a purpose. Golloped inside, I cannot endure nihilism, mislaid again. Death swallow me whole. Brain aches as worthlessness convenes. My name is you, I swear. Again perceived as a walking corpse, pageant of time dictates what you can see. Pride, go away. Now or never, I say. To the grave once again. You left me hollow flow of time. Dance with my bones in the clear. Solitude I longed for. Kissed me. Good night. Okay, so we have ideas of time throughout. We have this big idea of hollowness, decay, fugue, hollow, golloped inside. And we have, even solitude has this sort of connection to hollowness, this single, empty, you know, point of being where one is alone. Which, understandably connected to death, corpses, bones, we have that happening all throughout. And then time, intrinsically fairly connected with death. The main inspiration for this was my grandparents. I saw them age and die, so I was very familiar with their progressing despair in their bodies. That sounds very hard. I have not watched someone die or approach death. I've been fairly insulated from death in my life. But watching one's grandparents die. Big deal, right? I feel like those are like one of the first times we grapple with death is when our grandparents or great grandparents or other people in family die, right? It's about actual over potential particular. It's more that I connect more with poetry if it's anchored in something small, specific. Poems about justice or death don't really do it for me. Makes sense. I'm not sure how I feel about that on a categorical level. I I like a lot of poetry. It's usually like a poem to poem basis, I guess. Um, so pride and emptiness, this sort of self-filling and this decay of self against time. We have these like ideas of like these natural cycles. We also have God, belief, meaning, existential faith, all of these things going on. Um, and I guess this is definitely a poem where we want to just start delving into the meaning of the words because they are very dense. And I think without a better understanding of what we're really talking about here, it's going to be difficult to say very much about this poem. Some poems lean much further into the lyrical or the structural. This one is very heavy on meaning. So, decomposed smiles and cries of time. We're just sort of setting up death here, right? I mean, a decomposed smile, we can probably think of the skeleton. We see its teeth, it's sort of smiling, and cries of time. Decay, cries of time. Maybe we'll come back to that. Decay and fugue in a wallow of misery. Decay and fugue. Fugue is like the semicolon connections are also important if you want to properly understand the poem. Noted. Um, Fugue. I mean, fugue has lots of meanings. We have fugue as music. We have fugue as like a fugue state of emptiness, of hollowness. Loss of awareness of one's identity is the first thing I read as a definition of that. So not only are we talking about the decomposition of body and like moving away from life, but also the decomposition of mind and identity in fugue, in wallow of misery, right? These are like mental pain. And even like the cries, we sort of distinguish, you know, cries are something of the mind, fugue, wallow, misery, contrasted against decay. Body, mind, a very important distinction, something we see a lot in art, right? Hi, Leon. Welcome in. We're reading a poem about death by Yureiovsky. Semicolon. You mentioned these are important, so I'll maybe circle that. Amor propre, engulfed in impotence and solitude. Vanity, self-love, maybe a filling of self. Engulfed in impotence and solitude. Impotence has two meanings, right? To be impotent is to be unable to reproduce. Impotence is also to be just powerless and helpless. I think this, double meaning on its own is probably like already quite effective here, right? Because it's a word of both mind and body. To be impotent, to be helpless, to be unable, feel like you can do nothing is a mental phenomenon. To be engulfed in impotence, to be unable to reproduce, to be able to create new life, simultaneously is a reflection on death. If we can't create new life, death is something that just comes and destroys and obliterates oneself. So I think that's just a very powerful word here. And in connection with love, maybe makes sense. Amor. Amor propre, engulfed in impotence and solitude. Exhort for God to take me in as well. We're alone, we have no hope. exhort, encourage for God, like ask God to take me in. We're looking for something to believe in, I think is what's happening here roughly. We are hopeless, empty, rotten. Everything has been taken away. We are alone. And one would hope for anything, for some God to like free one of that, to because a God would provide meaning, a God would provide purpose, a God makes death not, this cry of time, this impotent end, this feeling of solitude. Amor per prey in impotence and solitude, it almost reads like a sad wank, but I don't think that's the purpose. I mean, I think it's almost like a reasonable reading, right? Because, like, one is just like trying to love oneself. One is trying to achieve something as high as potence, reproduction, something sort of godly, something to beat death. And instead, we're just, beating ourselves off. This sort of life of masturbatory continuation into time. I think there's like an acceptable reading that really like works there, right? Imagine someone's homework is explaining this poem and they just write, I don't know, sad wake. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like if one can justify um, an interpretation, then it's a valid interpretation, right? There's a subjectivity there, and I think it makes more sense that it than I think it makes a good amount of sense, you know. Death is just like faith. Brace yourself. The pace is fast. The face to face with a place to rot. Pretty. Oh gosh, we're talking about y'all are sending a lot of messages. I'm doing my best. We're gonna keep going. Worthless I beseech. So we have this like I am nothing before God. I am worthless. Maybe we should talk about exhort for God to take me in as well. Amor prepare, engulfed in impotence and solitude. Um, yeah, it's very dense. Decomposed smiles and cries of time decay and fugue in a wallow of misery. Semicolon. Amor per prey, engulfed in impotence and solitude. And you called out the semicolon specifically. These generally imply that the following phrase, the following idea, has some connection to the thing that came before. And uh, and I think, this is sort of to say that before death, one is alone, one is helpless. Right? This all stop erasing. This all exists in relation to the thing before it. I am alone. I cannot love myself. I am engulfed in helplessness, the inability to create life and move forward because of death. And because of that, I hope to exhort for God to take me in. I hope for any amount of faith, any steady thing to believe in, so that I might go forward, create life again, return to potence. I think impotence also implies a little bit of a like connection to God, because we talk about God as omnipotent, right? God is sort of the ultimate opposite of impotence, fully powerful, a creator, birth, that kind of stuff. The sad thing is most people that read this poem don't even realize it's about old people unless I tell them. Yeah, and maybe we can talk about that. Because, I mean, that to me says you would like for people to understand this as being about old people. And the way that we get people to understand the thing we're trying to say, old people, is to, have clear communication, have things that point to our meaning. We want to signal people. We want symbols that like provide this sort of idea. And we can talk about whether we effectively did this in this poem, right? Later. We should understand it first. This is something I insist on. You're new to the analysis thing, Yurei. That we have to understand before we decide if something is effective, if it's good, if it's bad, if it's working, if it's achieving its purpose. Because if I just read this twice and say, yeah, I don't really get the old people vibe, like, I haven't really done justice to it, right? It's a good poem when you can barely read it because of Lotus's notes. I mean, sometimes that just means it's a difficult poem, right? Difficult is not always good, but this poem is certainly dense, and I do enjoy density of language. Worthless, I beseech, impart purpose. I beseech, I ask. I ask, hyphen, this thing, impart purpose, give me purpose. I think this is what we were talking about before with God. Give me meaning. Give me, amor, right? That like self-love, that thing that fills me. Give me, meaning, God, love, fullness is what we're asking for. What's the title? A Dancing Skeleton's Solitude. Worthless, I beseech, impart purpose. Galloped inside, I cannot endure nihilism. So I've been emptied out, right? I've been emptied, so I am asking for purpose. I cannot endure nihilism. Nihilism to have no purpose. No inherent motion of life, nothing to guide oneself, any of that stuff. Thank you for pinning that message, Slash Phil. You're the goat. Galloped inside, I cannot endure nihilism. And like this is sort of fascinating, right? Um because nihilism starts from the point of like we are empty, we are without purpose. A skeleton dances in solitude. It's a dancing skeleton solitude, but I think you're close enough that it's okay. um Unless, I mean, maybe we should be correct, but I know it takes time to type things out. Empty. This is like the starting point of nihilism. Like, we are empty. There is no meaning. There is no purpose. And I find it really fascinating that the reasoning, right, I cannot endure nihilism, is because I am empty. Galloped inside, I cannot endure nihilism. Unless that is to say, right, gollop is to eat or drink greedily. If we interpreted golloped as rather than eaten out, maybe that's a bad phrasing, to be eaten away, like on a fundamental internal level. If we reinterpret that as like needing to eat, as starving for something, I'm not sure how to interpret this word here, but if we were to say like desiring to gollop, which I don't exactly think is the meaning here, but Uh, uh, yeah, we're really on the sad wink vibes, you're right. um, if we are to say like, like desiring to eat, desiring to fill oneself, with meaning, then that makes sense as a um, counterpart to nihilism. I cannot endure nihilism because I am seeking meaning, because I am hungry, because I need to eat and I need this God thing. I need meaning, right? Um, in the face of death. Like, that makes more sense to me than, like, I am empty, so I cannot endure the thing that begins with emptiness. But if I say I am hungry, so I cannot endure emptiness, that kind of makes sense to me. I had to look up what nihilism meant. I can also define for everyone. Nihilism is is a philosophy, first and foremost. Never be afraid to ask, in general, about what something means. It's a philosophy that, you know, starts with the idea that nothing matters. We're just like these animals on a floating rock in space, and it's pointlessness, and there's no purpose, etc. Right? Um, this is like the starting point of nihilism. There are things like optimistic nihilism, which says like nothing matters, so I will, kind of choose to be happy or like create my own meaning. There's also the very like pessimistic nihilism, which I think at its heart really is like suicide. Um, as someone who has kind of done that, uh, unsuccessfully. uh, where nothing matters to the point where we just leave, right? Um, which is, you know, that's sort of the nihilistic area. Is like nothing matters, so I am supremely content in my own being. Nothing matters, so I am gonna end my life. It's very like Albert Camus. The only true question of philosophy is that of suicide, right? All right, so I guess I'd be the optimistic version, but I'm definitely a stuff matters guy. Yeah, I mean, like, that's not to say, like, one does not have to be a nihilist. Um, I think if stuff matters, if things seem to have, like, inherent value and you're cool with that, probably not a nihilist. Optimistic nihilism is probably my preferred one if I had to choose, though. Right? Um, Meaning is demeaning, minimizing things. Nihilism is wrong. Everything is nothing, even void is interesting. There you go. Uh, the word nihilism was me deciding to be straightforward for once in a poem. Yeah, it is very just like, bam, nihilism. I can't do this. I cannot endure emptiness. Uh, yeah, you're an optimistic nihilist, Stylish Phil. Mm, That's good. I'd rather you be that than pessimistic. Only only really the bastardized middle school ass version. Originally nihilism was a revolutionary philosophy. Would love to know more, shake my spear. I've not read much uh, about existentialism in general, but I could definitely see like how it could be tied to revolutionary aspects. Back to the poem though. Mislaid again. Death swallow me whole. I like this like mislaid thing. Um Again, uh are we failing to escape the sad wink allegations? I think so. Um, um, look up nihilism in the Russian Revolution. Certainly not right now. But Mislaid kind of has this like really close sonic counterpart of Misled, where we're having this kind of pretty double meaning, right? Um, Mislaid again, death swallow me whole. So we have laid as to, yeah, mislaid, misses being laid. Yeah. I miss being laid. Um, but laid, as laid to rest, as death, as the end. Um, Mislaid is interesting. Like, one has been laid into death, one has gone into death in the wrong way somehow, but then also misled. Um, and I think we have this idea of faith, this desire for God, for some purpose, and yet this constant deferring, this falling back to nihilism, which, kind of makes sense, right? That in that setting, um, belief itself, meaning itself would feel um, misleading. Like one has been misled, and so one has been mislaid, and they cannot comprehend death, and one misses being laid, getting laid. EJ Sean, welcome. Thank you for the raid. I hope you had a good stream. Everyone, make sure to go follow EJ Sean. I think it's slash S or slash shout out. Stylish fail. It's very hard, right? But we're gonna shout you out. Another writing streamer. Uh, totally cool to raid and run. Get some rest after your stream. Welcome in everybody coming in. We are reading a poem called A Dancing Skeleton Solitude, which is, we're getting into a lot of like heavy nihilism, kind of death vibes. So if that's not your vibe, maybe this isn't the stream for you right now. But we talk about poetry here. That's, if you're not familiar, and we've had this community coming in a lot. Um, and yeah, we talk about poetry. Hey Jen, hate to interrupt, but can you check your Discord real quick? Uh, sure. I hate to have you interrupt. Um, okay, thank you. That's my sibling. Uh, uh, I will close my door. Is the thing. Okay. Um. Thank you, Rin. Okay, we're back. So yeah. No, interrupting's okay. Yeah, welcome in. We're going back. Lamau, join the stream just to tell you to close the door. I mean, yeah, she's like making noise in that direction. So, uh, it's actually, she didn't want to interrupt my stream by making noise that y'all could hear. Nah, I love contemplating and overanalyzing, and your readers might too. That's why being mindful in poetry. Oh, are we doing the overanalysis argument? We're talking about apples. I've been missing the whole apple conversation, but Staj, Fail, Ishmael, it seems like you're having a great time. So, uh, I'm glad you're having a good argument in my chat. That's always good, and I wish I could keep up with it and argue too, but poem, you know. Anyway, um, oh, Brian, you're gonna start an apple argument. Uh, I think you're trolling. I think you're rage baiting by saying red delicious apples are the best. That has to be rage bait. right? That has to be rage bait. Um, I'm like, there's no. Of course, you would like Granny Smith stylish fail. That's like so perfect for you. Yeah, bike kiosk. That's rage bait. That's rage bait. I'm not. I'm not. One, Granny Smith fits you because you like writing. Well, you have like the poem about Granny Esme, and you just have this like old kind. I mean, you're not like old, but you like write about aging a lot, and like just the word granny you've used in a poem, right? And then I think like the sourness fits you in that I think you have a hmm like I don't think you don't seem like someone who necessarily wants to like indulge in saccharine and hollow things, you know? So, it's kind of just the vibe I get from you. Like you're okay with the sour. You're okay with like the bitter. That's how I mean that's like a very like optimistic nihilism, right? To to be okay with the sourness of life. um Clearly Eris's golden apple is the best apple. Not familiar with that one. But there's also Minecraft golden apples. There's Apple the company, which we don't like them. Uh, there's all kinds of actual apples. Um, Rotten apples. Apple seeds. Apples yet to be. Adam's apple. True. Okay, we'll get back to the poem. We've derailed. Big. Okay. I need to. I'm like, I keep seeing Apple stuff. I've written a big chunk of messages asking you something. Would you like to check Two Thirds Lotus? I feel like they're part of like the. Oh, Imogen. I will give you a statement. Would you be kind enough to agree slash disagree? Love can be a symbol for Apple. Love can be a symbol for Apple, or apples can be a symbol for love. Oh, as much as apples can be a symbol for love. Nothing inherently makes love a bigger concept than apple. There is no order for what is the surface level meaning and what is the true meaning. Oh, geez. That's a big, that's a big question, Ishmael. Um, we're totally derailed. And it's okay because I love this question. The question, for those who did not catch it, is so we know that like an apple can be a symbol for love. We see this in, you know, like the biblical tradition, the Garden of Eden, this like tempting thing. We also have like a fruit that we bite into, something sweet, something filling. Um, and sometimes in a poem, we can talk about an apple. This is how symbols work. We can say apple, and people might automatically associate that, we're talking about love or that we're talking about temptation. Love might not be perfect here because it's a little more difficult, right? Um, Urey deserves our attention span. Urey does, but I love the tangents. And this is just part of stream, always, right? And that's just what we get, and I'm sorry, Urey. In the same way that, the moon can be associated with like femininity or femininity, uh, or like birth, cycles, menstruation. This just like happens because we have this association in the world. The question is, can we go the other direction? Can love be a symbol for apples? can femininity be a symbol for the moon? And I think the way that a symbol functions is really that it takes us from no, it's okay. I wouldn't mind you focusing. No, I have not given it enough time, Yurei. I'm not done with it. Don't worry. Um, I think, to me, I haven't thought about this too much, but my understanding right now is a symbol, literary symbol, takes us from something concrete to something abstract. It's not about size or anything like that. So the moon is something we can see, and we can talk about the moon, right? And we can understand femininity without having to talk about femininity. We can talk about the apple and, reference temptation and reference all of this stuff without actually discussing that thing. Um, and I think symbols usually take this motion of small and concrete into abstract. Uh, and in that case, we would not, this, like, using love to reference apples would just be like referencing the symbol and referencing the fact that the symbol exists. I don't think love could ever serve as a symbol for apple, because I think that's an inversion of the motion. That's my answer, Ishmael. Feel free to dispute me and write scathing comments arguing against that. No, I mean, Yurei, I haven't even, like, given dedicated thought to half of the poem. I couldn't possibly agree with you that I've solved it, that I've, like, gotten the value from it, you know? I've only eaten half the apple. I only have half the knowledge. See, that was me using a symbol. Apple, knowledge. It's the fruit of knowledge, right? Okay, we got sidetracked when we started talking about being laid. That makes sense. Um, but death swallow me whole. Mislaid again, death swallow me whole. Brain aches as worthlessness convenes. So I think we have um uh now that I thought about making love as a symbol for sex, I think it's a euphemism or like a phrase. I don't think that's a symbol. We haven't even gotten to the core of the apple metaphor. Yeah. Did I just miss an entire sex conversation? We've been constantly throughout this poem joking that this is really about being sad and masturbating. Um, Amour propre, self-loved, engulfed in impotence and solitude. You know, uh, that could easily be respun as masturbation. Uh, Golloped, um, to be eaten out inside, to be emptied. I accidentally said eaten out. We're explaining the jokes. We're live for this? All right, we are live for this. Mislaid, to miss getting laid. Anyway, that's as far as we've gone with that. I mean, I guess we also have death swallow me whole, right? That's why I just juice all my apples. Fair enough. Um, Death swallows me whole. Brain aches as worthlessness convenes. So, this might even be a sort of turn into the pessimistic. I cannot endure nihilism, mislaid again, death swallow me whole. Like, this almost reads as death Please, death, do this thing. Death, swallow me whole, right? Can you swallow me whole, death? Brain aches. Like, my mind is in pain as worthlessness convenes. I'm like, it's like that moment where you're just grappling with nihilism and, uh, and it's just like everything is so acutely full of suffering. Um, and one feels so worthless and one feels so empty that one becomes willing to die in the face of death, right? When one begins to contemplate the death that they witness, then they begin to contemplate their own death. And that's sort of the origin of nihilism. I am going to die. I am going to be permanently obliterated and never wake up again at some point in my life. How do I go on? And is in realizing that death exists that I begin to ponder my own. My name is you, I swear. This is very William Blake. Life lives upon death. My name is you. I think we've already addressed death directly, and that was the last person we addressed. So you. This could also just be like a person we have seen die, which you've sort of given us the context of that, Yurei. My name is you. You, the person who has died, who has led me to witness this thing, again perceived as a walking corpse. So now I can't do anything but see myself. I cannot see myself as anything other than already being dead, empty, shambling. Also, welcome in, Nikki. I don't think I said hi to you specifically. Welcome. My name is you, I swear, again perceived as a walking corpse. So we're back into this nihilistic realization. I think again is very interesting because like this has happened before and this will probably stop happening, right? Where my name is you, I swear, again perceived as a walking corpse. Like, I've been perceived as a walking corpse once. I am again. And I think this sort of makes sense. Like, we are reminded of death, the nihilist. The nihilist is reminded of death. And then their brain aches and they feel worthless and then they want to die. And they feel like they are death and they live upon the fact that death is happening at the end of their life. And then at some point you sort of wake up from that slump. You sort of, come back from it and like return to some extent and keep living. You like go live another day. Pageant of time, again perceived as a walking corpse. Pageant of time dictates what you can see. So we have like this walking pageant, like this theme of presenting oneself, I guess. Pageant of time dictates what you can see. So we're walking through time. My name is you, I swear, again perceived as a walking corpse. Pageant of time dictates what you can see. You. Again perceived as a walking corpse. Pageant of time dictates what you can see. This is kind of a hard line. To dictate is to say, to determine. Pageant of time dictates. So it's the walking through time, it's the going about living. Maybe this is just the fact that, We must progress through time. Like, it is the progression of time that allows death to begin creeping into things, so that as we walk along this pageant of time, as we go further and further, death gets closer and closer, and then you sort of walk off the runway and you're gone. That makes sense. I think that's how the symbol kind of lands for me. Is this the hardest viewer poem I've read? No. This is actually not. Um, this is very dense, though. I think it's one of the denser things I've read. um, it's like up there, I would say. Um, there have been things I've really like struggled and had to grapple with and bang my head against. One was the lyrics that Ishmael sent the other day. Um, Sometimes they're hard for other reasons. Hardest poem? Is this the hardest poem, guys? Hard? Swallow me whole? Okay, we're done. uh, um, I see it as you can't control how time changes how you are perceived. Okay, you can't control how time changes. Oh. So it's like, as we walk through time, I like that, Nikki. That's uh I like that interpretation a lot, actually. Um um uh y'all are y'all are throwing me off by being funny in chat. I like when y'all are funny though. So as we go through life, as we walk the runway, we decay. We fall apart. The pageant of time, our clothing, the thing we display, our body, our skin, our physical me decays and falls apart. Um, Dictates what you can see, that physical external me, that body that is destined to decay. Pride go away. Maybe this makes sense. Pride is that holding on to self, a different kind of self-love, where we love the moment, where we love the temporal thing that we're going to lose. And so if we can get rid of pride, maybe we can usurp the pageant of time. I like how this almost like pageant is a bit like passing, right? Like the passing of time, the pageant of time, they almost feel like very similar words and they evoke each other. Um, so yeah, pride go away, right? It is pride, it is grasping, it is looking for meaning in God, maybe, that makes this hurt so much. All of that. 500 years later, people will study this poem. I mean, it's presumptuous. I would hope that 500 years from now, someone amongst us, our poetry will be studied. I mean, wouldn't that be beautiful? Um, this author must have been such a serious person. Meanwhile, I'm making D jokes while he's yeah. We're all just joking. Yeah. Um, you know, we must smile in the face of death. We must laugh. We must dance. A dancing skeleton. Ah, maybe that's what we're doing here. I'm perceived as a walking corpse. My pride must go away. I must just dance and be free. I am a walking skeleton, and I am alone, so I dance. That's very optimistic nihilist right there. Um, Maybe that's the poem. To the grave once again. You left me, hollow flow of time. So you left me, if we go back to this you as someone who has died, someone who has reminded us of death, right? Um, then you you left me, like a person, a literal person, the reminder of death. I think this is the only thing, like these are kind of the only things in the poem really evoking like the it's about old people. Like old people are naturally associated with death. I don't really think it super strongly evokes this personally, I will say. To the grave once again, you left me hollow, flow of time. You left me hollow? You left me hollow, flow of time. So, like, death has taken, time has taken. Dance with my bones in the clear solitude I longed for. Dance with my bones in the clear solitude I longed for. Kissed me a good night. I feel like I struggle with the actual. Isn't you time? Yeah, yeah, you left me hollow flow of time. Or, like, yeah, but like the flow of time, like what is the flow of time? What is the flow of time embodied as in this poem? It's the decomposed smile, right? It's the skeleton. It's the person we've seen die. Um, and I think maybe that's another reason why this poem doesn't as strongly evoke this single person, this old person who has brought upon these thoughts of death, because like you is really the flow of time. You is like really death here, which time and death are embodied, but we kind of have to take a leap of logic. We kind of have to extrapolate to say, well, how would a person grapple with death? And there are a million ways we can grapple with death. Um, of course, we give the very first thing, the decomposed smile, the death of a physical object, a skull. Um, but this would also imply something much older, not an aging person. It seems like you left me hollow is being said to the flow of time in that line. I agree. Yeah. In the same way that, uh, my name is you is referring to death, or death, swallow me whole. You left me hollow, flow of time. Which these actually connect quite well. Like flow of time and death are associated through these two lines, which also associates us with like the golloped, all of that stuff. It's good. I like how these things connect. But yeah, you left me hollow, flow of time. Dance with my bones in the clear solitude I longed for. Kissed me. I, I'm struggling with the grammar of the last two lines. This is something I must say. Dance with my bones in the clear. Like, that's fine. In the clear. And then we have solitude I longed for, kissed me a good night, which on its own is fine. It's like a fragment, and maybe that's what we're saying. Solitude, the solitude I longed for, kissed me a good night. But I feel like it also like wants to be read as like dance with my bones in the clear solitude. But there's a comma here. So I guess we're supposed to read it as two separate. I mean, this is like a sentence. And then this is just like a fragment. Maybe a comma isn't the best punctuation choice there. Unsure. Dance with my bones in the clear. I like that. Time just carries me along. Time will dance with my bones. Uh, that could be both in death, where time just takes hold of them, or in life, where, you know, I am dancing. I am bones dancing, carried by time. That's all I am. That's pretty. And then solitude I longed for, kissed me a good night. Maybe they dance because of the kiss, hence the comma. Dance with my bones in the clear. Solitude I longed for kissed me a good night. Yeah, in which case it implies that like we're dead and time is less left to do what it wishes with our bones. Um Dance with my bones in the clear. Solitude I longed for kissed me a good night. Well, okay, wait, okay. They're like there's like a double interpretation here. Aren't we dead though? That's the question. Are we dead? I don't think we have to be. This is definitely like an interpretive choice. I'm going to argue that we're not dead. In these two lines. We are our own past. Okay, well maybe you're just we are our own past. That's true. In that we're always dead. Maybe there's a whole other interpretation for the poem through that frame. Good point, Leon. Solitude I longed for. What is the solitude I longed for in this poem? The specifically mentioned solitude that I longed for is this one. When we're asking, death to swallow us. Right? I beseech. Worthless I beseech impart purpose. So we like ask for God and we don't get it. Right? We don't get purpose from God. And so we are nihilistic and we ask for death. Those are the choices, arguably, like that this poem suggests. But then the solitude I longed for, the pessimistic nihilism, has kissed me goodnight somehow. Somehow kissed me goodnight. And so the flow of time may dance with my bones in the clear, like for the remaining time, in the clear for what is left, I guess. In which case, I am alive and I've escaped pessimistic solitude or pessimistic nihilism, and now I am dancing. Right? That's an argument. The other is the solitude I longed for kissed me goodnight, as in I am dead. Right? I died. I got my solitude. I got obliterated, and now my bones will be danced with into the ground. It could be that I died on a metaphorical level, right? In grappling with death, in understanding that I am death and I am a walking corpse, I am already dead because I will die. I can now dance. Right, like that's the pride go away. I am already dead. I have nothing to hold on to. I am free. I am liberated. So now I'm in the grave again, but I'm alive. Because I'm walking, because I'm a walking corpse or something. We've all been dying since the day we're born. We've all been dead since the day we're born. Maybe. In life, you are dead the moment your purpose is not yours anymore. You have illusions in your youth. You're dead the moment your purpose is not yours anymore. I might agree with that statement. I don't know if I do. Now we're getting like very philosophical. Um, but okay, I'm actually partial to this as a metaphorical death, which is sort of leaning toward the subjective, taking this poem as something that I can understand through the way that I see the world. But if we like go back, my name is you, I swear, again perceived as a walking corpse. I have like looked at the fact that I'm going to die, so now I acknowledge myself as dead. Right? Pageant for time dictates what you can see. So like my body is turned over to the walking through time. Pride go away, now or never, I say. In that moment of deep, bottomless hopelessness, you can abandon pride and you can abandon the fact that you're anything but a walking corpse, a living creature destined to die. right? And when you do, you sort of accept death in life. To the grave once again you left me, hollow flow of time. And maybe it's the flow of time that left me. To the grave once again you left me, flow of time. The flow of time has gone to the grave and has left me here. Okay. I'm not sure. I don't want to force my interpretation onto it. Maybe that's just a reiteration of the same. We're flowing toward death. And then now I can dance with my bones in the clear, right? I can be free from death. I can dance. I have the solitude of death. I escaped God by dying. You talked about nihilism as revolutionary. I think someone talked about God, um, and it being like a spitting in the face of God type thing. Nietzsche, God is dead. Um, right? I accepted death instead of reaching for God, and now I am happy. Now I can dance. Maybe that's a thought, right? um, yeah. Welcome in FJ89. You came in just as we're about to have an ad break on Twitch, also known as a mental break, because as you say, Yurei, we've been thinking very deeply, and it is very important to rest our minds, to kind of come away from the poem, and we'll probably come back to this one a little bit more just to wrap it up, to discuss a few more things. But for now, everyone, like, stand up, get away from the computer, you know, rest your eyes, lay on the floor, get a water, get a snack, go to the bathroom, get a beer. I don't know, whatever you do. Um, and I'll be right back. Hello. Welcome back. We have a special guest on stream. It's Harper. There's a dog. Isn't he so cute? I love him. Anyway, uh, yeah, a real living, breathing dog. um. Anyway, welcome back. I'm Imogen. It's the dog in me. Yeah, you got that dog in you. I want to say something to what you said a second ago, Yurei. And we will go back to the poem. Yes, the dog's name is Harper. Um, you said, Yurei, I like how my poem made you guys think so deeply. It's pretty touching. And I really think that more than anything else, more than like the analysis, why analyze, right? Is like a pretty reasonable question, right? Um, and one person might say, okay, we can analyze the poem so we can like give people feedback on their work. We can analyze the feedback. We can analyze the poem so we can understand it more or like get it. Um, I'm starting to think that the most important part of like the reason to analyze a poem, the reason to sit with art and meditate on it, and that's the word, right? Is to let ourselves engage in the process of thinking, right? To give oneself the time and the space to, take something difficult or take something we don't like, right? Maybe this is the kind of poem that Stylish Veil didn't like. Maybe some of you really like this poem, but it's to take something different and like spend time thinking about it, right? And when I first started analyzing on stream, I was doing like Bukowski, and I chose his poetry because I didn't like it. I didn't like Bukowski's writing, and I said, if I'm gonna spend time analyzing something, maybe I should do something difficult, something hard, something I don't like, something uncomfortable, because that's giving my mind, that's like doing myself a favor, right? To spend time engaging with honestly other ideas. And I think just the lesson of just the lesson of taking time with art, taking time to engage with something, to with ideas and talk about them is so like foreign in, you know, 2026 Anno Domini, right? Where like we just don't do this. We swipe through TikTok. We want something fast. We want gratification. We want our own little like intellectual, you know, jacking algorithmic jacking off, right? And we talk about jacking off on stream too much. I think it's a useful concept though. Um, and like I don't know, to actually engage with a poem, to actually um spend time with something, right, is really like the best way to move away from like these caught up, fast, uncomfortable, gratified postmodern lives. So that was just like a little more of a nuanced response to the thing you said earlier. Um, you know, like I don't think we think deeply enough. I don't think people spend enough time thinking about each other's art, and that's sad. So I'm glad it's good. Welcome in FJ89. I know you came in right before the ad. Glad to have you. I'm doing quite well. I hope you are well. Um, I like nihilism. I define myself as a Monty Python nihilist. I'm not sure what that means. I have no control over what words my brain decides it is in the mood for. That sounds quite hard. I've definitely been there before, and it's not fun. I didn't find it fun. Let's talk a little bit more about this poem. We've talked a lot, but I definitely want to do a full read again and maybe touch on some other things, or if there are other questions from chat or from you, Yurei, or if we want to dig into this idea of like, does it evoke the idea of old people, or this kind of thing that you were going for that maybe I feel like it doesn't. um, we could talk about any of those things. But here's the poem again: A Dancing Skeleton's Solitude. Decomposed smiles and cries of time decay and fugue in a wallow of misery. Amour propre engulfed in impotence and solitude. Exhort for God to take me in as well. Worthless, I beseech. Impart purpose. Golloped inside, I cannot endure nihilism, mislaid again. Death, swallow me whole. Brain aches as worthlessness convenes. My name is you, I swear. Again perceived as a walking corpse, pageant of time dictates what you can see. Pride go away. Now or never, I say. To the grave once again, you left me hollow flow of time. Dance with my bones in the clear. Solitude I longed for kissed me a good night. Is Harper a harpist? Hope he's happy having his honest Harper Harpit Harp. I think you did typos. Harvesting honey. Um, his honest harp harvesting honey. Yeah, those H's in English suck. Thank you for reading the poem. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. Maybe there's a. I feel like I've said most of what I want to say. I do want to touch on this though, and anything else that people have questions on. You know, you say most people don't seem to catch that this poem is about old people and it's sad. Um, but to me, like, really, I'm not sure that the poem is really effective in communicating this idea, right? I think it's a good poem. I think it does great on death and time and meaning and belief and etc. 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 I think expecting people to get this from the poem is definitely like the wrong direction. And, you know, we can write a poem. We can write a poem about something. We can start with the idea of old people as the thing that inspires us. And maybe that's what happened for you. But oftentimes we do that. And, like, sometimes this will just exist in the background as the context of our writing. And when we do this, like, sometimes it doesn't actually get evoked in the text itself, right? Our reader can never understand that we're trying to write about old people if we never tell them anything about old people, even if it was in our mind with like every single word we wrote. So, like, to go back through, right? A dancing skeleton's solitude. You know, we know after reading the poem that we're talking about someone who is alive and dead, which maybe evokes the idea of someone who is dying, who is like emaciated or who is just extremely frail, and they are a skeleton that is still moving. Um, and so, like, maybe that in general implies a frail person, but I think more so, right, in the context of the poem, we're talking about a walking corpse as me, as I. My name is you. And And I think we have a lot of this like really heavy personal nihilist grappling where we are to understand, at least I understand a dancing skeleton solitude. You know, if I sort of ignore this context you've given as I am a person and I am alive, so I'm a dancing skeleton. I am this living thing destined to die. And we go to like decompose smiles, a skull. This thing is already dead. Not an old person, it's dead. Cries of time, decay, and fugue. Arguably, fugue. Like another way we describe something like dementia or someone losing themselves as they die is like a fugue state. In a wallow of misery. Um, Amor propre, engulfed in impotence and solitude. Exhort for God to take me in as well. And I think like now this is where it feels like it moves to personal struggle. I beseech, I'm exhorting for God. It's self-love. Impart purpose. I am galloped inside. I cannot endure nihilism. Right? We have a big shift to me after the second stanza, or in the second stanza, and I think this makes it feel right, very personal. My name is you is actually meant to refer to a young people and their inability to empathize with an old person. My name is you, I swear. Again perceived, so it's you being perceived as a walking corpse. My name is you. And I think maybe that right makes sense. Like, my name is you, thinking about oneself as another person is the motion of empathy. I think the issue with that, right, is when we use a pronoun, you is a pronoun, right? A pronoun needs to have something it points to. And, that means our poem has to have a sort of cast of characters. Who's the cast in this poem? The cast is me. The cast is God. The cast is death. Death swallow me whole. The cast is time. And I don't think we establish the sort of character in this poem of another human, except for maybe the decomposed smile. Like, if we really try, right, the fugue state and the walking corpse maybe could be an old person. But even in that case, the you is before the walking corpse, right? And I think this means, you is always going to imply, is going to speak to something that we've already seen, usually. Um, and so I find that this lands as my name is you, death. Death, swallow me whole. My brain aches, or brain aches as worthlessness convenes. My name is you, right? The last person we referred to is death, right? So that's sort of what it jumps to. One of the things I love about poetry is there is the allegory I write, and then there's the allegory being read, and seeing the many variations so beautiful. Absolutely. I mean, that's like the greatest thing, is that it's subjective, and no one will interpret exactly what we were saying. Um, and I think that maybe that idea is something we should think about. Maybe you should think about Yurei when you say, like, I'm sad people don't get the old people reference. Because there is the thing that you write and there's the thing that people get. And, pride go away, right? People will see what they see, I guess. Fun fact, I made this poem for a puzzle level in a video game, and the level's name is Hello, My Name is You. Even 6 years later, it's considered a top 10 hardest puzzle. It was part of a 10 puzzle series, 10 different poems. That's really cool. That's so nerdy. That's sick. What's the video game? I would love to know. Um, but to make and like the poem, you you seem to like the fact that it's difficult, right? You've mentioned the difficulty of this poem multiple times, and I think that makes sense now, right? You wrote it in reference to a puzzle game. This poem is a bit of a puzzle. Uh, and I also think if you're going to write a poem that's a puzzle, um, words words are very difficult puzzles to solve. Uh, Word puzzles. Not word puzzles like I don't know, like crosswords or whatever. um, but the puzzles of literature and the puzzles of poetry are very hard. Um, and when you write a poem that's a puzzle, you probably should never expect someone to solve it. Does a riddle written in verse count as a poem? I mean, you defined it as a riddle, right? Poems can be riddles. One of the big early styles of Middle English poetry around like Beowulf times that we have like very small fragments from was the poem as a riddle. Like that was a big um, stylistic thing that happened in English poetry in like the 13th century. in the 14th century. So I think poems can be riddles, and a riddle in verse, yeah, like probably, it would probably read as a poem. Game is called Grotopia, but it's not explicitly a puzzle game. It has a community for it. Cool. I've never heard of that game, but I'm not really a big video game person. Sandbox MMO. Oh, so people like make puzzles within the game. I see. Um, as I was going, as I was going to St. Ives is a pretty famous riddle poem. As I was going to St. Ives, who's this by? Is that Blake? No. Oh, anonymous. No author. As I was going to St. Ives, I met a man with 7 wives. Each wife had 7 sacks, and each sack had 7 cats. Each cat had 7 kits. Kits, cats, sacks, and wives. How many were there going to St. Ives? Oh, okay. So it's like a little puzzle. Like that's a little math riddle. That's very fun. Um, yeah. What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and 3 in the evening? Is this a poem? I mean, that's a pretty like it is a that's a riddle, right? It's an old person or it's a person, right? 4 legs, a baby crawling, 2 in the afternoon, in the middle of their life, walking, three, a person with a cane. Um, it's one of those riddles that you have to take a very like artistic leap to understand. Um, to like have the cane as the leg and the crawling as 4 legs. Um, Afternoon, morning, evening as phases of life. Uh, that was always a riddle that I liked a lot because it makes you take an artistic leap. Uh, there's poems that are like, or there's riddles um, that I'd say are a little more like straightforward or don't require you to like take a big interpretive jump. I find that fairly poetic. um, but it's hard to define things as what is a poem. Like that's very clearly a riddle. Like, what is this? Right? I don't know. Okay, anyway, so in terms of the old people thing, right? We have the my name is you, this sort of empathy. Again perceives as a walking corpse, pageant of time dictates what you can see. Pride go away, now or never, I say. To the grave once again you left me, hollow flow of time, dance with my bones in the clear, solitude I long for, kissed me a good night. And I think in general, right, like there is very little here that directly calls us to the idea, this like old person idea. And I just want to like point that out, Yurei. Not that it's bad, because the poem is like it's a good poem. I really enjoy it. Um, but from like if this is really what you want people to get, that it's about old people, you might need to make it a little more clear. I'm not sure if you would even want to edit a poem after 6 years, and this one's very good and is like a something a 16-year-old wrote. I mean, like that's wonderful, right? That kind of blows me away. Um, but as a poem in itself, I honestly want to allow people to think what they think. I mean, that's good. That's where you should be. I guess I'm specifically like calling attention to what you said pretty early in stream. That was like most people don't get that it's about old people, and that's kind of sad. Um, and I just wonder about that impulse. It's kind of sad. Um, but yeah, no, I like the poem a lot. uh, very. I mean, it's a lot. It's dramatic. It's intense. Um, Definitely, as Stylish Phil was saying, these like big ideas, this meditation on death. But I think like anything so directly about nihilism kind of needs to be that edgy. Um, it's hard to not talk about this stuff without it being dramatic because like the play of life and death and how we come to find purpose within that is a very dramatic thing. Um, I'd love I'd love at some point to see something. I don't know if you've kept writing since then, like for 6 years, but if you have more recent work, uh, I mean that's something I would like be fascinated to see, because you're like roughly my age, right? And the difference though is that you've moved on to writing books. I see. You're roughly my age, but you've been writing for 3 times as long as I have, and that's very fascinating to me. What do you write? Like, what do you write about? What genre? What things are your book preferences? I guess it was a very poorly worded question. I think that's all for this poem, though. Um, so I'm gonna read it one more time. Unless anyone has any like last questions, comments, thoughts, things you want me to keep talking about, all of that. Um, I'd be glad to indulge in those questions. If not, um, then we'll call it, you know? Yeah. I don't think there's any questions. I know it like takes a minute and chat's a little delayed and that's hard. Um, I'll let you check out a synopsis if you're interested. I wrote it while I was 19 and then had a little alcoholic drug arc, but I'm writing new stuff again in the past year, soon releasing. That's really awesome. Cool. Um, Call it Time of Death 2304, yeah. Um, so here's the poem again, and maybe we'll open that book link. A dancing skeleton's solitude. Decomposed smiles and cries of time. Decay and fugue in a wallow of misery. Amour propre engulfed in impotence and solitude. Exhort for God to take me in as well. Worthless, I beseech, impart purpose. Golloped inside, I cannot endure nihilism. I feel like it's only now that I'm noticing some of like the musical things going on. Mislaid again, death swallow me whole. Brain aches as worthlessness convenes. My name is you, I swear, again perceived as a walking corpse. Pageant of time dictates what you can see. Pride, go away, now or never, I say. To the grave once again, you left me hollow flow of time. Dance with my bones in the clear. Solitude I longed for, kissed me a good night. That is a dancing skeleton's solitude. I can't notice the sounds. I'm stuck on sex innuendos. Yeah, I mean, there was a minute in the middle of stream where I was like reading the poem, and I'm like, I just can't get over the fact that we've redefined half of this poem as innuendos. And I was like trying not to laugh. Um, but yeah, there is some sound stuff happening in there. Um, there's like, um, uh, worthless, I beseech, impart purpose, worthless. Worthless, I beseech, impart purpose, golloped inside, I cannot endure nihilism, endure purpose, worthless, mislaid again, death swallow me whole, oh, whole, brain aches as worthlessness convenes. There's some like subtle internal rhyme happening, which is cool. Um, but yeah, It was a good read. I know we got kind of distracted and whatever, but that was quite fun. I thank you for sending it, Urey. Um, Very glad to have read that one. And yeah, good stuff.